Marvel and DC Chaos, Dumbledore powers unleashed across universes. Like, share and subscribe. Episode 161. Looking at the ugly Thanos, the corners of Russell's mouth slightly hooked. With one hand behind his back, the other hand spread out a classic starting style and hooked his hand. Wing Chun. Bah, sorry for going to the wrong set. Karmataj's new supreme mage, Russell. Isn't it a military body fist? He helps the future Hulk to avenge it. And seeing this scene, Thanos' face was even more gloomy. Why are you a supreme mage, not good at magic, and changed your career to become a warrior? But immediately Thanos barely squeezed out a smile and explained. Your Excellency must have misunderstood, that kind of goal sounds dehumanizing, and my wish has always been to restore Titan. Russell shook his head slightly. It's not honest, it's not good to make small moves. The next second, he turned his head sideways. I saw that Ebony Throat was using his mind to control the control center behind him, wanting to make the spaceship jump. Enter commands at the same time to make the ship explode at the space fold. Resistance does not exist, that is too fantastic. Only to generate spatial turbulence, and perhaps a glimmer of chance to survive. At this time, he had already entered all the instructions and started the jump program. The ship's engine was pushed at all costs, producing a huge roar. This sound is extremely abnormal, but it sounds so pleasant at this time in Thanos and Ebony Throat. However, in the next second, this voice gradually weakened. Not only did the spaceship not jump, but it quickly disintegrated, and then deformed and condensed into a huge palace. Thanos' pupils trembled. One of his targets is the time gem, and of course he has studied Karmataj's magical system. In this situation, he recognized at a glance that this was a spell called mirror space. But he didn't see how the other party used it at all, or even how he pulled himself in. It's obvious. Not only in close combat, but also in the opponent's magical attainments. And the Ebony Throat flew out towards the exit of the hall without hesitation at this time. But at this moment, the space he was in twisted and rolled. After a second, the space resets. The body of the Ebony Throat had been misaligned into more than a dozen pieces, and it fell to the ground with a few clicks. Thanos no longer pretended, and gave birth to the momentum of the Overlord of the Universe, slowly standing up from the throne and looking directly at the other party. Is there no second option? Russell shook his head and said with pity, for a calamity-type idealist like you, who is extremely determined in your heart, only killing is the best choice. Otherwise, I will definitely leave you with your life. Got it. Thanos did not have any pessimism, despair, or anger and fear at this time. He just nodded calmly, put on the golden helmet set aside, a color of memory appeared in his eyes, and there was a trace of vicissitudes in his voice. In my life, I have been disgusted from birth, and then I have seen my clan go astray and the planet destroyed. But I found a way to go down this path, and I have slaughtered countless intelligent beings, not to mention genocide. But I didn't expect it to be my turn today. Although I am a little unwilling, I do not regret this result, and paying my life for the ideal can be regarded as a worthy death. In the next second, Thanos raised the golden Overlord Heavenly Blade and pointed it at Russell. Let's fight. Supreme Mage, Human Russell. In an instant, the two figures collided together, and the entire transformed metal hall trembled like Hong Zhong de Lu. But half a quarter of an hour later, the roar disappeared. Russell held lightning in his hand and looked down condescendingly. Any last words? The Overlord Heavenly Blade broke and plunged into the ground, and the corner of Thanos' mouth on the ground was shattered and lying on the ground, and he said weakly, "Of course not." Russell nodded, and in an instant, the thunder in his hand erupted, turning into a sharp blade and penetrating the other party's heart. When countless bursting currents were extinguished, Thanos was no longer breathing. At this time, the golden aura lit up, and Russell walked straight out of the mirror space without looking back. And behind him, everything is collapsing, and finally it is like a metal tomb piled up in the broken void. A day later. Contrastar. Star-Cross, Mechanical Supreme Organization, completely evacuated here. This is a respect for the eye of magic on the surface, but behind the scenes, there is no way to compromise. When Russell defeats the sword fight, annihilates the sun, and resurrects the stars in an amazing battle. These two cosmic empires understood that only befriending each other was the only way out. The busiest and most complicated place in the Vega Galaxy ruled by the other party is the first step. And then there will be other negotiations and more concessions. This is the absolute benefit of absolute force. However, Russell did not want to encroach on the star field or exploit profits. He has only one purpose. Build a magic academy and let the empire spread their magic. And Contrastar is the first stop. The territory has been circled and is on the magic node of the planet. And according to Russell's drawings, construction has already begun. As for the name of the academy, it is not called Karmatage. And it's called Hogwarts. Inside the Magic Eye base, Russell has a single room. Defeat the sword fighting of the Hia Empire, change the power structure of Contra Star, kill Thanos, and capture the entire Dark Order. This series of changes is enough to give him 61,500 exchange points. Russell's eyes flashed with brilliance and began to simulate. 10 minutes later, after spending 4,800 exchange points, Intix's simulation became 100%. He finally gained magical knowledge of all 13,000 magic books. That's enough to start transforming a lot of magic, creating a pseudo-magic net system while activating acceptance and feedback mechanisms with 3 master boxes. It's finally here. But Russell didn't start the makeover right away. There are still more than 50,000 exchange points, and if you are lucky, there are better harvests. Soon, the simulation points were rapidly reduced. In addition to the whiteboard. Pink, Gojo, 100%. Get 6 eyes, realms, spells. Blue, Besazer Blake, the Sorcerer's Apprentice. 100%. Mana, Molecular Transfiguration Magic, Mana Impact. Purple, Zella's. 100%. Mana, Arcane Magic. Purple, Walt Padrick, the Dark Tower. 100%. Magic, the Power of Speech, Control, Immortal Body. Pale Gold 1-star Legend, Ritz, 100%. Mana, Magic, Rune Power. It cost more than 40,000 exchange points, except for the whiteboard and Goju, all of which were about magical characters. At this point, Russell finally decided. This system is completely pseudo-random. When he needs some aspect of power, the system's random character card will be extremely biased towards this aspect. But why is that? Russell frowned, and for a moment he couldn't understand why this happened. He even called for the system, but nothing AI-like came out to explain. After a moment, he let out a long breath. Either way, it's a good thing. The main thing now is to break through the monolithic universe. Episode 162. At this time, there were more than 16,000 exchange points left, and Russell did not hesitate to continue the simulation. Soon 1,200 points are quickly consumed. After 11 whiteboards in a row, another character appears. 1-star Golden Legend, the legendary Dark Magus Jelfderagnar. Fairy Tale, Natsu's brother. After spending 8,000 points to simulate completely, in addition to mana, he also gained a lot of ordinary magic. Black magic. Ancient lost magic. Make demons. Hundreds of curses. And a cursed power, Death Hunt. This is Jelf being cursed by the god Axlam. The more it respects life, the more it releases the energy that spreads death. On the other hand, if you do not respect the life of all things, you will not release the energy of death. Of course, unlike the original role, he can fully control whether he releases himself or not with his strength at this time. At the same time, this curse carries another kind of power. Eternal life. And with the knowledge of 4 or 5 powerful magical characters in succession, Russell found himself more and more able to clearly observe the nature of this special power of magic. He even had a feeling. As long as you have all the knowledge combined, you can create new magic on your own. Hope is not an illusion. Russell looked forward for a moment and continued the simulation. For the first time, whiteboard. The second time, whiteboard. Thirdly, whiteboard. 59th, whiteboard. Looking at the last few hundred exchange points, Russell was a little confused. He didn't understand why his face suddenly darkened. Don't say gold and purple. Even the blue is gone, all of them are white cards that have no effect at all, which can be called white giving. But the darker his face, the more Russell wants to compete, just like spending 648 cards before crossing, he will charge money when he is angry. He does not believe in evil and continues randomly. 60th time, whiteboard. 61st, whiteboard. For the 66th time, an incomparably dazzling golden light lit up from the system page. The background of the blue sky and white clouds is completely reflected in gold. At this time, a door with intricate patterns opened in the sky, revealing another dark space. The next moment, a figure walked out from inside and floated down on the platform below. Russell was thrilled. This time, the picture was obviously even stronger than the vision that appeared before when he had drawn the peak of the Heavenly Father level. This shows that this time he drew at least a single universe-level powerhouse. But at this moment, the picture of the system layout froze. Congratulations to the host for drawing the 8-star legendary character card. Is it simulating? Detected that the current strength is insufficient and cannot withstand the strength. Verdict: current character cards cannot be simulated, reserved. Please raise your own rank. Please raise your own rank. Please improve. Russell looked sluggish. He never expected that the system would play such a hand for him. He opened his mouth, but the words he wanted to curse were still not spoken. In case the system mutates at that time, it will be even more impossible to cry. Moreover, the system is likely to have been like this in the first place. Before he became a Heavenly Father, he had not drawn a character card with Heavenly Father level power, and presumably it could not be loaded at that time. Forget it, at least the full power of a single universe level character is waiting in front, so it should increase the power. Russell was not discouraged. After all, his power does not depend on the system alone. And now that you can transform magic, the day when you can break through the single universe by yourself must not be too far away. There are only 3 things he has to do now. First, transform the spread of magic. Second, hunt more strong people with energy and accelerate dimensional growth. Third, find a way to obtain a large number of exchange points. Once it breaks through to the single universe, if it can completely simulate the 8-star legend card, then the strength must not be as simple as 1 + 1. 3 months later. Within the dimension, the Mage King looked at the giant magic well, with countless magic patterns constantly emerging and hidden inside. At this time, he had the feeling that Russell was his primary school class leader one day, and suddenly became a professor at Cambridge University the next day. No. It may be more figurative to say that he is a higher civilization to observe primitive people. A moment later, the Mage King looked at Russell with a resentful expression. Say, what have you done behind my back? Don't be like a grudge. Russell pushed Wong's big face away with a helpless look. Then he snapped his fingers, and suddenly a black magic book appeared. This is a magic book that Russell imitated through the Book of Dark God. He can make people learn magic faster, and at the same time, there is no tempting power to pollute inside. Handing the magic book to the Queen, Russell explained briefly and continued, you first take 1 to 11 rings of magic, and learn a part of each level. There are more low-level, and a few of the higher ones will do. Next, you will be a teacher and teach at Karmatage first. Wong did not reply directly and opened the magic book. In the next second, he revealed a look that was even more shocking than when he saw the dimension before. Protective system. Spell system. Prophecy. Confused control system. Plastic energy system. Department of illusion. Necronomicon. Change department. And some common school spells such as secret law mark, limited prayer technique, magic constancy technique, magic trick, etc. are different from the above 8 types. Even Wong saw a magic called atomic splitting in the 11th ring spell, which can be said to break down everything. There is also the Great Flame Yang technique, which can be called a supernuclear explosion. Russell, you must be the reincarnation of the god of magic. Wong looked at Russell blankly, and at this moment he felt as if he saw God. Russell casually restored the clarity of the other party's thinking, and then said, do you think that compared to these spells, is it the magic of the Vishan Emperor that is more attractive, or mine? Wong said without any hesitation, I'm sure most of Karmatage's mages will learn this new spell. First, it is extremely convenient for the spell bits brought by the magic net system to meditate in advance. Second, this is very important because the spell has been meditated in advance, so there is no unexpected situation such as tension that prevents the spell from being released. Third, there are really too many types of magic, it is almost all-encompassing. I really doubt that you have a universe in your head. Fourth, although there are requirements for the strength of the mage itself, the strength of magic has also increased more obviously. Moreover, Karmatage's spells actually have the same requirements, or even more complicated. Fifth. Speaking of this, Wong took a deep breath, and then sighed incomparably. The same mana required to summon a flame, your spell costs significantly less than the same type of spell in Karmatage. These 5 points add up. Trust me, Russell, few mages can resist this temptation. Episode 163, it turns out that what Wong said was not wrong. Less than half a month later, most of Karmatage's mages began to major in the 8 series of magic. Due to the unparalleled diversity of spell types, the clarity of specific power levels, and the absence of any side effects, the mages are very enthusiastic and forget to learn. For example, Master Demir, whose highest has learned the magic of the 4 rings, can be regarded as gifted. However, there is a little deviation from what I thought before. The mainstream of mages is to meditate and give 80% of their mana to make spell bits, not all of them. The remaining 20% of mana is reserved to prevent other accidents. So some of the magic before, most people will also minor some old-fashioned defensive magic. Inside the dimension, Russell's eyes were closed. At this time, in the center of the magic net, the energy well constructed by the mother box continued to overflow with a large amount of mana. They are like colorful mist scattering in the air, beginning to assist dimensional growth. And the dimension is feeding back to him at the same time. Every minute and every second, Russell could feel his magical strength strengthening. It's subtle, but it's endless. And most importantly, this is just Karmatage less than 1,000 mages. Once the entire universe is learning the 8 series of magic, that increase in intensity is extremely terrifying. However, Russell is not greedy, and his current target is only the Vega Galaxy. Karmatage's experiments worked very well, and soon after a magic academy was established in Europe. A large number of wild mages joined in without hesitation. And the so-called one-year study, the 5-year treaty required to serve the Magic Eye organization, also looked more like a benefit to them. After all, the advanced magic in the 8 series of magic is not something that can be obtained plainly. All magic above the 6 rings requires merit, and the higher the level, the more you need. Merit, on the other hand, needs to be earned by working in the Magic Eye organization. Similarly, for wild mages without a backstage, it's great to have a strong organization to rely on. Don't mention what freedom is not free, these people who have lived a hard life don't care about this at all. A year later. On Contra Star, Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry opens. The headmaster is a more stable mage king. Gryffindor head Slantek. The other party found Karmatage half a year ago, and at this time he was already the 9-ring Great Demon Mentor, with more than 200 spell positions. The talent is so high, I believe it won't be long before it reaches the 2nd generation legend of the 11th ring. Slater's new Dean Loki. It turns out that this goods used to be completely tricky, and the speed of learning new magic in Hellas' hands is very fast. At this time, he was also already the 9-ring Great Demon Mentor. One hand hit the first 100 of themselves. And Master Damiel of the Hufflepuff Courtyard. This old man is now a 7-ring mage, and his basic knowledge is particularly solid. Finally, Dean Lackvanlaw is Wanda. With Russell's ability to open a small stove and give magic marks and her own talent, she was already an Archmage of the 10 rings. It can be seen as an apex under the Heavenly Father. However, the situation at Hogwarts is somewhat different from that on Earth. Only intelligent creatures under the age of 13 with magical talents will open up all knowledge below the legendary spell. Of course, there are also treaties. Once the Academy needs a cadet, it is necessary to return to complete 5 missions. And these people are the backbone that Russell created for the future dimensional war. As for those wizards or mages who come here, they can choose to enter the Eye of Magic to learn. Spells below the 7 rings are also open there. However, the treaty, like the wild mages on Earth, also comes at a cost of work. But most still opted in. One is that magic is alluring. Second, the Magic Eye is not something that anyone can join. The original sword fighting was defeated by the true leader of the Magic Eye, but countless people saw it. Many people squeeze their heads and want to go in. Therefore, in the eyes of many mages, entering the Eye of Magic is even considered an honor. It's a world like an abstract oil painting. The colors are rich and vivid, full of unimaginable energy and strange creatures. This is the white magic dimension. It can also be called Astral Realm. And above the Astral Realm, the Trinity Abstract Emperor suddenly split into 3 forces, and then condensed into 3 planet-sized figures. They are a man and a woman, and a tiger. Agamotto, Ashutu, and Hogs. Suddenly, Hogs let out a deep voice. New magic has appeared in the overworld. I observed that this force is systematic and extremely future-rich. At this time Agamotto looked at the woman and spoke. Is his master evil? Are we going to intervene? As the source of the white magic power that guards the world, they don't care that someone robs the magic power. What I care more about is whether the world will be eroded by evil magic. At this time Aoshida shook his head slightly. No need to meddle. That's destiny, it's the future. Agamotto did not care about this ambiguous remark and nodded. Got it, mother. In the next second, the 3 became one again. 5 years later. In the boundless universe, more than a dozen spaceships tens of thousands of meters long and flashing magic runes are making space jumps. They are hunting. The target is none other than planet Igo. At that time, Russell originally wanted to use Star-Lord as bait, let Yongdu fish out Igo, and slaughter the other party. After all, the amount of energy contained in the other party's body can definitely allow his dimension to evolve to the apex of the Heavenly Father level faster. But unexpectedly, when Yongdu passed according to the coordinates, Iago was already gone. I don't know where the disclosure came out. Later, Russell wanted to use divination to find the other party, But this product had sown his own power seeds on various planets, so he intervened too much and did not find it. It is difficult to detect a planet hiding in the universe. But Iago is not honest, and a certain heir he found happened to have studied 8 series of magic, so it was exposed. Russell didn't make a move. Iago didn't even reach the Heavenly Father level, just so that a few geniuses of Hogwarts, plus the Eye of Magic actual combat training. It is worth mentioning that now the Magic Eye is led by Nick Fury, with Tony Stark as the Minister of Science and Technology assisted. And the members of the organization. In addition to a large number of mages, members above level 5 have been injected with the potion of the Flame Titan, and have the ability to transform and control flames, and their strength cannot be underestimated. When the fleet made another leap, it finally found the moon-sized Iago ahead. When a closed encirclement is formed, several high-energy missiles wash the ground. Teams of robots, titans, and magicians begin to cooperate to invade the inner core. In the end, under the command of Nick Fury, only 6 people were killed and 53 injured, and the props were used to completely seal Iago's mind, making it sleep as a lamb to be slaughtered. Episode 164, Fail. 3 8-ring mages, 5 7-rings, 6-ring 42, 170 Titan warriors, 400 mechanical guards, plus a series of complete plans have all appeared. Are you ungraduated students at Hogwarts? Suddenly, a grand sound echoed in everyone's ears. Except for Nick Fury, everyone looked scared and ashamed at the same time. One more time. As the sound fell, the emerald green light-like substance fell. All of a sudden, time has been turned back. Iago awakens, and the dead come back to life. It's all back to the moment the action began. The next moment, the battle begins again. But this time it's not just a member of the Magic Eye, Iago also has a memory of the attack. Half an hour later, Iago was sealed again for thought. But this time, the battle lost 26 people and wounded more than 100. This time, the grand voice was filled with strong dissatisfaction. The resilience is too bad, come again. Once again, go back in time and new battles take place again. After 7 times in a row, the battle damage came to the 2, which is the most perfect one. But after going back another time, the surface of Iago's planet began to collapse violently, eventually forming a thick, compressed shell to protect the core. It was clear that he couldn't stand being a non-expendable training item that the Eye of Magic used to train warriors. I plan to be a shrunken-headed turtle and stop resisting at all. Seeing this, Nick Fury, who was located in the mothership, sneered at the corner of his mouth and shouted into the headset, "Activate the second battle plan. Planet migration." Suddenly, the squad leaders began to respond, confirming the new formation and equipment arming. But at this moment, red glows and shrill alarms lit up in all the ships. Attention, this alert is not a drill. Attention, this alert is not a drill. A super high-energy reaction within 10 light-years has been detected. The strength can be determined as Heavenly Father level 5, 149, the rating method produced by the Magic Eye. It is recommended to jump out immediately. Contact countdown, 68.67.66. At this time, a huge figure with a calculation result 10 times larger than Iago appeared on the main control screen, wearing indescribable purple armor. Obviously, the other party is the high-energy reaction. Although a little shocked, none of the members of the Magic Eye inside the spaceship were nervous. If it had been put in the past, they would have been absolutely terrified and desperate. But now it's different, the biggest leader of the organization is looking here. The existence of Heavenly Father level 5 is completely non-threatening. On the other side, within the dimension, Russell looked at the huge body and was surprised. Planet Devourer. It is one of the 5 gods of the universe. The other 4 are annihilation, infinity, death, and eternity. But unlike the strength of these few, the strength of Star Swallowing completely depends on whether his stomach is hungry or not. It has the highest upper limit and the lowest lower limit. For example, now, this product is not even a single universe, and it is only mixed with a Heavenly Father level 5. Russell guessed that he should have turned back time again and again, causing Iago, who contained huge energy, to produce special fluctuations that were detected by the swallowing star who happened to be in the same star domain. This kind of energy that eats thousands of planets, the other party must rush over like a mad dog. But just as he was considering whether to make a move himself, a voice sounded in his ears. Nick Fury's original blind eyes lit up with magic marks, and he spoke. "Sir, I request to test Tony Stark's translatitude super magic weapon. This will be a great opportunity." After a few seconds of silence, Russell responded. "Permit." Nick Fury suddenly showed excitement. And beside him, a golden portal suddenly appeared, and Tony Stark, wearing black magic armor, opened the portal and walked out from inside. As soon as he appeared, he laughed excitedly. Roar, he finally gave up the magic energy to let me test weapons. And the enemy is so powerful, it's even cooler to see. As he spoke, Tony Stark and Nick Fury raised their arms at the same time. Suddenly, 2 rune barriers appeared, full of densely packed symbols. Then the two quickly clicked the unlock password. More than 10 seconds later, as the last rune lit up, a synthetic mechanical female voice sounded in all the battleships. Attention, please return to the cabin immediately by the personnel stranded outside the spacecraft 10.9.8.7. The battleship is closed. The magic barrier is on. Lock starts. In a dimensional space link. The connection is successful, and the compound magic array request is started. The mother box responded successfully. The compound magic array has been activated successfully. The energy well began to respond, and the cross-dimensional magic energy pulse annihilation cannon was charged. 10. 20. 30. 100% charge. Negative energy starts to pour. 10. 20. 100. Phase magic array activated. Space door unfolded. Target space reinforcement. Locked. Target lock complete. 3.2.1. Fire. The star-swallowing star in rapid flight has been dominated by hunger to sanity. He only had one thought at this time, that is, after eating that energy source, he could maintain it for thousands of years without hunger. Suddenly, a giant colorful space door appeared millions of kilometers away from him to illuminate the universe. The next moment, a black and white mixture, like a super light of countless particles, converging across the deep space of the universe. That terrifying fluctuation instantly sobered up Swallowing Star, and a creepy feeling appeared in his heart. At this moment, fear prevailed over hunger, and he instinctively wanted to escape. But immediately there was horror in his eyes. The fragile space has now become extremely strong. His powerful speed across the universe comes from breaking space superspeed movement, but now it is completely impossible to do it. And at this moment, the dazzling light has arrived. Airplanes. In an instant, the powerful force field of star swallowing formed an invisible shield to resist ahead. But this did not hold up even for a second, and was directly annihilated. Then there's the purple, armor made of cosmic alloy. But this can walk on the armor that the sun will not melt, and melt in an instant. Next moment. With an earth-shattering scream, this extremely terrifying particle light penetrated the chest of the swallowing star, and continued to fly towards the farther and deeper universe. On board the spaceship. The mechanically synthesized female voice sounded again. The life breath of the detection target is 100% gone. The spaceship defense is unlocked, and the lock is lifted. Phase magic energy pulse annihilation cannon off. Dimension link broken. Mission accomplished. Episode 165. Inside the mothership, even if Nick Fury had expected it for a long time, this scene still shocked him. One cannon to kill the Heavenly Father. In a way, this is no different from killing God. However, he also knew that this was mainly supported by that magic well, otherwise it would definitely not reach this level. But even that is terrifying. But the next second, seeing Tony Stark's expression, Nick Fury couldn't help the corners of his mouth twitching, and he didn't have a good air. Why, you still don't seem satisfied? Tony rolled his eyes. Of course not satisfied, the strength of the enemy is not enough, not much useful data has been obtained. It's not easy to improve. After all, according to his calculations, in terms of the huge magic energy in the energy well, all the magic energy cannons below the Heavenly Father level below 15 could not block this kind of magic energy cannon with sky falling as the main body and a large number of composite magic arrays. While speaking, he looked at Igo, who was shrunk into the turtle shell in space. Why hasn't it been solved yet? Do you want me to make a move? He recently developed a pilot-type, thousands of meters tall Titan-level warframe, which happened to have not been tested. But at this moment, a giant space door of hundreds of thousands of meters appeared. A huge palm composed of green energy bodies, as if it could cover the sky, poked out from it, grabbed Igo, and dragged it back into the dimension. After a few seconds, all visions disappeared. Everyone in the fleet felt the invisible pressure dissipate at the same time, and then let out a long breath, their eyes full of awe. Tony was no exception, and said with a look of emotion, "Phew, sure enough, no matter how many times I see this power, I can't help but feel my own insignificance." But in the next second, the goods hit Nick Fury with his shoulder, and said with a smile, "You say, will we be able to put on the mural in a few hundred years? At that time I must design my own image." Nick Fury instinctively wanted to refute, but found himself unable to speak. He suddenly found that he didn't know when he started, and he seemed to think the same in his heart. There is no accident that the man will become a godlike existence. It seems that this is how it should be. Time flies, thousands of days and nights pass. Within the dimension, Russell opened his eyes, revealing a pair of sapphire-like pupils. In an instant, all the mysteries of everything in the world seemed to be hidden inside. That's right, this is the six eyes that can see everything. It was also a surprise that Russell did not expect. The 6-eye level of Gojo Gojo is unimaginably high, and the other party itself has not even played 1/10,000th. They even had to be sealed with an eye patch all the time. But in Russell's hands, with his own strength, the 6 eyes were completely stimulated to their potential. Especially for mastering magic, it is a tiger wing. In the next second, his gaze disappeared into the void, as if he saw some scene. It's finally time. 5 years ago, his dimension had grown to the limit. Its size is the size of 10 Vega galaxies, and it is filled with countless planets, even life. Under his intentional control, there is almost no difference between this place and a new universe. And breaking through to a single universe is not always to increase mana, you need an opportunity. And now, that opportunity has come. Earth. Center. An incomparably huge, nurturing being as if curled up in the mother's womb was soaked in lava. He is the celestial race, Tiamat. This race is one of the most terrifying races in the universe. In the beginning, before the 6 singularities and the dawn of creation, the celestial god race supreme has already been born. It was he who created the first sun and brought light into the world so that everything began to develop and be in equilibrium. And his people were born in the midst of the planet. When they break through the ground and break free from the planet, they have unparalleled power, a single universe. Suddenly, an underworld force began to summon. Tell him it's ripe and it's time to wake up. But at this moment, one by one, the runes forged by countless magic patterns lit up. They have appeared at some point, and at this time, they have spread throughout the center of the earth, forming a huge enchantment. In an instant, countless silver-white energy replaced the magma, completely enveloping Tiamat. Super Rune enchantment. Originally, the power of the enchantment was that all witches other than the maker could not use magic power. But under the transformation, it's not just magic that is suppressed, it's any energy. Even the Tiamat, who has not yet made the divine appearance, has not reached the monolithic universe. Under the enchantment, he suddenly became weaker. And at this moment, countless lightning chains in the void were formed, wrapping around his limbs and his body. Nope. Sensing the crisis coming from the underworld, Tiamat's 6 eyes lit up one by one, stirring up terrifying energy. But at this moment, a clear and crisp bell rang. A huge, circular clock phantom appears inside the enchantment. And then in sound, the only pointer rewinds in a counterclockwise direction. This is the magic end of all life at the time of death. It is also the approaching footsteps of the Grim Reaper. Tiamat obviously felt something, and suddenly 6 rays of different colors burst out in his eyes, dispelling silver-white energy and constantly cutting off the lightning chain. At the same time, the power of a black hole began to converge in his palm. However, a river of blood suddenly appeared, turning into an endless sea of blood in an instant. Blood pool hell. Buddha in the palm of your hand. The two become one, creating an endless 88 layers of hell. Tiamat let out an indescribable roar, and the black hole in his hand finally took shape. That was originally an adult celestial god race that could use the power to create stars, but now it was forcibly used by him. Suddenly, the sea of blood boiled, and the space began to be shattered layer by layer. Finally, as the black hole expanded, all the sea of blood disappeared. But at this moment, the hands of the huge clock phantom had already returned to the scale of 12. A vague sigh appeared, like the sound of the wind. And it was at this moment that the fear of death appeared in Tiamat's heart. He is desperate to burst out with all his strength, even if it may hurt his future. But it's already too late. A fiery bullet shattered the rune enchantment, penetrated the black hole, and disappeared into Tiamat's eyebrows. In a flash, those 6 bright gems, the eyes dimmed at the same time. The green dimension opened up and swallowed the corpse of the heavenly god in one gulp. Episode 166, Within Dimensions. Russell raised his arms and waved his fingers gently. Suddenly, the invisible force began to disassemble the corpses of the celestial god race in the sky. But what he wanted was not the huge amount of energy contained in it, but the origin power seed. Every celestial god race is sown from seeds like that. It is also the key to their ability to become a single universe. After a few breaths, when the golden armor was peeled off, the flesh and blood were decomposed, and an energy core that kept emitting golden strands appeared. It is only the size of a fist, but it seems to contain the truth of the universe. Without any cracking method, Russell instinctively knew how to do it. He gently floated in front of the origin seed and took a light breath. Suddenly, like flowing water, the golden seeds turned into countless particles into Russell's body, flowed into every bloodline, and penetrated into the DNA spiral structure deep in the cell. In an instant, amazing changes began to appear. Countless patterns with the rules of the cosmic part began to imprint on it, and even replace the part. At this moment, his essence began to change. Outside, Russell has closed his eyes and curled up. Silver-white silk threads stretched out from the void, wrapping around his body like cocoon silk. When he was completely wrapped, the cocoon began to pulsate like a heart. At the same time, bursts of golden halos were emitted, spreading almost instantly to the entire universe. And the dimensional barrier that had reached its limit suddenly appeared a splintering sound after absorbing the halo. Evolution, it begins. Earth. After less than 2 decades of development and transformation, the rapid evolution of civilization here is unimaginable. And unlike other interstellar civilizations, the Earth is parallel to magic and technology, which is very diverse. At this time, there is not only the cosmic port of the giant cosmic fleet, but also the magic portal fixed to many cooperative civilizations on the moon. And the terrestrial planets of the entire solar system have been transformed into living homes. Unlike Thanos' philosophy, Russell wants an explosive population. The population base means that there will be more people who become magicians, and there will be more technological talents. As long as you have the technology to transform the Death Star. The universe is so big that even trillions of human beings to the 10th power cannot fill the Vega galaxy, not to mention that there are almost infinite galaxies outside it. At that time, when Russell killed Thanos, he had observed the other party's soul and found that there were obviously traces of being seduced by inexplicable power. Obviously, slaughtering half of the population of the universe was not his own idea. Although it is not shown in the movie, it must be the god of death who can do this kind of thing. Fortunately, the other party cannot personally interfere in the universe, and there is no need to be afraid. Port 2. A giant mothership came to a standstill, and the next second hundreds of small flying machines flew towards Earth. This is the return of the fleet that broke through the Vega galaxy and explored outward, with first-hand information. And at this moment, a black hole suddenly flashed in space. In the next second, a giant larger than the Earth and wearing crimson armor appeared. His 6 eyes looked down on the Earth with an unimaginable sense of oppression. In an instant, sharp sirens sounded in all spaceships, as well as the Earth Defense Department. Inside the mothership that had just stopped, Nick Fury stood in front of the main console and roared, "Fack! Who will tell me why the probe did not detect the fluctuations of space being opened? And damn Friday, what about the enemy's rating?" Friday is the mothership's super-intelligent AI, responsible for data analysis, making various plans. "Sorry sir, the detector cannot analyze the biological data in front of it, and its strength has completely exceeded the rating of the system. My advice is to jump and flee immediately." Although the artificial AI said this in a very human euphemism, it was extremely cold in Nick Fury's ears. Beyond the Heavenly Father level, what kind of existence is that? How could the Earth provoke such a strong enemy? Run? Where can I run? He even felt that if the other party was just a thought, everyone might die. And at this moment, a huge 6-pointed star magic array appeared. The next moment, in the dazzling silver light, a behemoth descended from inside. It was a super mech with huge white metal wings on its back and a streamlined body constructed of magic metal. It's a quarter the size of the Earth. Light Warrior. Although Tony doesn't know why Russell came up with this name, this is the strongest mech he helped build with his mother box. Enough to reach the level of the Heavenly Father. But at this time, in the face of this unknown terrifying enemy, this power is obviously not enough. But Tony still piloted the mecha and blocked the front of the Earth without hesitation. If you want to attack Earth, you must first step over his corpse. And the next moment, that huge red giant stretched out his palm towards him. In an instant, the magic engine of the silver-white mecha began to roar, and runes lit up on the metal armor. Suddenly, dozens of magic pulse cannons began to charge energy on the shoulders, and then illuminated the dark universe through the void. But the power that could easily tear the planet apart fell on that giant palm without producing any reaction. The attack is ineffective. Tony wasn't surprised. The next moment, 2 magic marks appeared in his eyes, and the huge magic power began to roar. The same giant mech also lit up with new runes again, and magic pipes were inserted into his back. Resonance. He wants to merge with the mech and overload. What will be the consequences after that? That's not in his consideration. Almost instantly, the fit was 100%. The mech burst into flames, and its wings on its back spread out, turning a blazing crimson. Good. I never tire of seeing the praises of the courage of intelligent creatures. I recognize you, human. A grand voice defies the rules and rings out in a cosmic vacuum. A black hole appeared on the giant's palm again, pressing towards the overloaded mech. I don't need anyone to admit it, I'm who I am. Lord of Dimensions, give me the power of magic. Tony roared, and in an instant, the magical energy, like a tidal wave of the universe, converged in the hands of the mecha. The universe is illuminated. A huge sword of flame of hundreds of thousands of meters appeared, and then swung towards the giant and fell. No sound, no explosion. But when the flames collided with the black hole, there was a terrible annihilation. But it's a pity that the flames are annihilated, and the black hole is expanding. Seeing this scene, Tony felt both natural and desperate. But only he doesn't regret it. A second later, the black hole had swelled to the edge of the mech. Inside the mothership, Nick Fury no longer dares to watch the next scene, and at the same time plans to start the leap to see if he can save the human fire. But at the moment when everyone was desperate, a white light lit up. It was as if it were the first light of the world, so pure, so holy. And when the incomparably terrifying black hole was illuminated by the light, it began to melt rapidly like spring and white snow. When the black hole disappeared, a small but incomparably great figure stood proudly in front of the mech. The next moment, an incomparably magnificent, majestic voice resounded throughout the universe. Arisham. Do you want to go to war? At this moment, Russell's eyes were silver white. There were countless terrifying forces in the surrounding void that were constantly changing, and there were 6 infinite rough stones above his head that slowly rotated like a crown, emitting bursts of light. And the moment his words fell, 999 pairs of huge angel wings bloomed behind him, exuding divine solemnity. At this moment, he was like a god. No. Not as if. He is already a god at this time. He's upgraded. Episode 167. Everything in front of you is like a miracle. Under the white light, all the injuries on Tony Stark's body that were corroded by unbearable magic disappeared. Even the spirit and all other negativity have returned to their peak. An uncontrollable look of awe appeared in his eyes and looked ahead. Single universe, he really succeeded. Demon god, only by breaking through that boundary can it be considered really. Fading the ordinary. Become a god. Inside the mothership. Nick Fury instinctively wanted to burst into a foul mouth, but the next second he quickly covered his mouth. He was so excited. Completely understand what this scene in front of you means. Once the chief can take on this terrifying enemy. Vega Galaxy. It is even said that the whole world can be at Russell's feet. And the Earth, of course, will also promote a more exaggerated civilization. Deep space. A scarlet light appeared in the eyes of Aritham, the judge of the celestial race, and a shocking voice came out of his mouth. I feel the breath of Tiamat in you, it was you who killed him. Russell bowed his jaw slightly, and his body instantly became several times larger than the planet. His body erupted with amazing coercion, and he looked down at the other party and said coldly, when you choose his parasitic location on Earth, everything is already doomed. You can ignore the lives of billions of living beings, why do you think I care about his life? Since you regard the Earth as a consumable, there must be a price for becoming someone else's consumable. Arisham's eyes lit up red, and his voice was filled with endless anger. The celestial god race has created everything, and so has this planet. In an instant, Russell's body appeared and the tide of energy was roaring. With a cold glint in his eyes, he just asked rhetorically, so? Arisham didn't seem to care, but said in a loud voice, I will take you back to Olympia, where you will be judged. Of course, if you want to resist, then the civilization behind you will completely dissipate in this universe. Of course he can see the other person's character. But the celestial god race has never been the only one, and the other party can't protect anyone. Huh, Russell sneered expressionlessly, reaching into the void. It's okay, although you destroy human civilization, I swear that I will kill all the celestial god race. Make your heads into planets for hundreds of millions of people to trample underfoot. The voice fell. When Russell's arm was withdrawn from the void, a huge giant sword was held in his hand. The giant sword turned pitch black, and the surface was like liquid flowing, covering a large vein-like vein, as if it had life. Impossible. The moment Aritam saw this sword, he suddenly shouted out in shock and anger, Black Death Sword. Impossible, this sword is buried in a silent planet, you can't get it. This is the nemesis of the Celestial Clan. It is a slaughtering artifact created by the symbiote god Nar, who has once cut off the heads of dozens of celestial gods. The one in the Void Land is one of them. Now seeing the sword born again, I can't help Aritam not be afraid. Russell did not hide the malice on his face. Not sure, how could he devour the seeds of Tiamat? The location of the Black Death Sword is unknown to ordinary people, but Star Swallowing has encountered it in the hundreds of millions of years of traveling the universe. It was after he decomposed the Star Swallowing star that he had to know the location of this sword. And, more than that, the Star Swallowing grid is higher, reaching the level of the multiverse. With the essence of the other party, Russell can become this level as long as he steps and quietly wait for the world to develop, and he can become this level supplied by countless magicians. Of course, that length of time would be a scary number. Moreover, Russell dares to confront the celestial god race, and it is not just this whole card. The previous 8-star legend card has finally been unlocked. But that's not one, but a group of members. They also cook the world of magic forbidden books. Respectively, the demon god Autonus, Monk, Nefertus, Empress, Corpse, Chimera, Nuada, Tezcatlipoca, Prospina. This demon god is not the dimensional demon god in Marvel. It's a true god of magic. They all have their strengths. But when the two are combined, once they are all obtained, they will change qualitatively again. Russell will use this power to add Star Swallowing rank to promote diversity. At that time, he could use magic to manipulate everything in the world, and everything was under his control. He can create all things, distort the world, and even make 1 + 1 = 3. It is also possible to make the fixed length stretch and contract, so that the fixed mass can increase or decrease, radically beyond the limits of the world. The previous 130,000 magic books are the cornerstone of these demon gods, and Russell can fuse them with the key. But again, the character points that need to be simulated become astronomical. 9 demon gods need 9 million exchange points. In the past 10 years, Russell has worked hard to make the development of this universe different, so that he has obtained more than 1 million. Only Autonus is unlocked. But even so, his strength is not comparable to that of ordinary monolithic universes. Plus 6 Infinity Stones, the Black Death Sword, and a variety of other powers. Russell is confident he can lift the table. If the Celestial God clan wants to be an enemy of him, then he will accompany him to the end. Alatham fell silent and seemed to be calculating something. A moment later, he gently waved his hand, and suddenly more than a dozen people were ingested into his palm from the earth. In the future, the Celestial God race will not make a planetary system when stepping into the Vega galaxy. After saying something coldly, he changed positions again, and the black hole flickered for a moment and disappeared. He can't afford to gamble. An unborn, celestial god race is not worth turning over and may remain at an unimaginable price. Inside the mothership. At this moment, countless people fell into crazy cheers. They looked at Russell's huge body in the universe, as if worshipping a god. Inside the magic mech, Tony Stark couldn't help but wave his lower arm. Such a powerful enemy was actually deterred to leave. What this means is self-evident. Russell's power has broken through the imagination of the mind. He knew that from now on, the world would be completely different. Egyptian Divine Realm. Since the death of the god of Hades decades ago, it has become much quieter. Many gods no longer wanted to go out, and stayed in their temples very honestly. But at this moment, a huge door squeezed the barrier that shattered the god realm and suddenly opened in the sky. The gods looked up in horror, only to feel an extremely terrifying aura, and their hearts were trembling. The next moment, Russell came out of it and calmly looked down at the gods like ants. Episode 168. In the middle of the blue sky, the blazing sun dimmed for a moment. The sun god Ra walked out of it, turned into light and recondensed in front of the door. In the next second, he stared deeply at Russell with incredible eyes, and sighed. Although I had a hunch last time that you would come to that god realm, I didn't expect it to be so fast. Hearing the words of the god of Ra, hundreds of large and small gods in the Azu god realm all showed shocked and terrified eyes. The realm of God. That is the goal they aspire to all their lives, and cannot be reached. It is not at all their kind of pseudo-gods who use authority, rely on authority, and the real position is completely under authority. But it itself has transcended authority, which is nothing more than an appendage. Even the sun god is far away from that realm. Even, this existence was the first time they had seen it in their long lives. At this moment, the gods were like ordinary humans facing a crisis, sweating coldly, and their souls couldn't help but tremble. I am extremely afraid that the gods in the sky will send down divine punishment. After all, the previous Hades god was killed by the other party. At this time, the sun god Law sighed silently, and his body seemed to become more dignified. Is the Supreme Mage here to expel me and so on, or is he going to take back the possession? The deportation representative waits for death. Recycling authority means immediate death. Both situations are desperate. Russell shook his head slightly, and said in the surprised gaze of Rashen, "You think too much. I will not interfere with the faith of human beings, that is their own freedom. As long as you do not interfere in the world, you can be at peace with each other." As soon as these words came out, the huge stones in the hearts of the gods fell instantly. They climbed to the shore with difficulty like drowning people, and after being saved, they breathed a long sigh of relief. Whether the other party came this time to warn or something else, at least it was safe. "Is there something that the Egyptian gods need to do?" the sun god asked extremely politely. "There is indeed one thing." Russell nodded, his palms slightly open. Suddenly, a golden scarab and a small scepter appeared floating in the air. It was exactly what he had harvested in Ezra before. One from Amit believers and one from Horus. When Russell advanced to the single universe realm, he sensed that these two treasures carried the power of time. But under his 6 eyes, he found that they were mutilated and there should be a part. "You should know what the third treasure is, leave it to me." Although Russell's words were a little unkind, they were heavenly in the ears of the gods. It's scary if you have no purpose, and it's much more reassuring to have a request. Don't say one, it's no problem to have 10. At this time, without the sun god opening his mouth, the sky god, one of the 9 pillar gods, raised his hands respectfully, and a golden scepter carved out of wings appeared. Russell's gaze suddenly disappeared, and then immediately appeared in front of him. The lack of places is made up, and there is a chain reaction immediately. The 3 treasures that originally seemed to be poured from gold, and the round and integrated were actually disintegrated, and then rechimed into a gold bracelet. In an instant, a green light flashed from above. It is the power of time. There was no surprise in Russell's eyes, just put away the bracelet and silently looked below. After seeing the scalp of the god's numb, he turned around and walked back into the door, and suddenly all visions disappeared. Only one sentence echoed in the sky. "If you have any questions, go to Kong Su. From today onwards, he will be the agent of your Age-a-God realm." Hearing this, the gods were not dissatisfied in the slightest, but a thick envy appeared in their eyes. In the sky, the sun god La looked at the jealousy and various complicated emotions hidden in the eyes of the gods, and sighed even more. Kong Su, who was expelled by the disgust of the gods in the past, now stands on top of all the gods. Fate is impermanent. What an irony. Asgard. God King Odin and Queen Frigga stand at the front of the Rainbow Bridge. Behind them stood the masters of the 9 kingdoms except for the Dark Elves and the Flame Realm, as well as hundreds of fairies holding flowers, and thousands of guards in golden armor standing on both sides with solemn expressions. In the sky, there are various light spirits flying around, and the mermaids in the lake are ready to sing at any time. And this scene appeared 10 minutes ago. Everyone was waiting, but there was not the slightest impatience. Another few minutes passed. The world tree suddenly appears in the sky, and you don't need to go to a specific location to see it. The next moment, a colorful halo emanated from the branches inside, and then formed a whirlpool in the sky, and gradually extended a step after step to meet on the Rainbow Bridge. This scene gave birth to indescribable wonderful feelings in everyone's hearts. For the first time in history, the world tree took the initiative to pave the way. The God King is too polite, our relationship does not need to be like this. A voice with a gentle smile appeared from the colorful vortex. Russell stepped out from the inside. In the Song of the Mermaid, slowly descending in the rain of flowers spilled by the elves, standing on the Rainbow Bridge. Odin took the initiative to step forward and smiled from the bottom of his heart. "That's not going to work. Nova Empire, Solon, Kree, and other empires have held grand congratulatory banquets. How can our 9 kingdoms be weaker than others?" Russell smiled, then listened to the arrangement of the God King. "Today you have the final say." When Odin heard this, he smiled even more, and his face had more than a dozen layers of folds. It's so face-giving. Sure enough, the appendages of the other 9 great powers were even more in awe in their eyes after hearing this. If he was forced to surrender by force before, there was still a trace of resentment in his heart, but now he is thinking about how to please Odin. Russell looked at it all, but didn't care at all. Odin, on the other hand, was a little emotional. He suddenly found that the most useful thing he could do in his life seemed to be having a daughter. The next step is the banquet and other processes. However, for example, the frost giant, Lao Fei, and others did not dare to disturb Russell. For them, it is a great honor to be with such beings, and even this awesomeness can be passed down in the race. At night, everyone dispersed. Russell and Odin come under the world tree. In the next second, an enchantment with countless unknown magic runes lit up. The smile on Odin's face slowly disappeared, becoming a little melancholy, and then said with a long sigh, "Looks like you found out." Russell nodded calmly. "The time has come. It's time to tell me the truth about Ragnarok." Episode 169, Ragnarok. Dusk. Odin muttered to himself, with an indescribable sadness on his face. At this moment, the old man in front of him and the god king who seemed to be able to conquer the world and watch everything were judged. The next second, he said everything. More than 10,000 years ago. When he was not yet a god king, in order to gain the power to conquer the 9 realms, he came to Jotunheim's world tree. Next to the second root, there is a spring, called the Fountain of Wisdom. It is said that drinking it gives people great power. But, too, there is a price. So I sacrificed my left eye and hung upside down on the tree of the world for 9 days and 9 nights. I lived up to expectations and obtained unimaginable rune power. But what they didn't know was that I also glimpsed the truth of the world. Speaking of this, Odin showed a wry smile on his face, a hint of anger, and a hint of fear. The next second, his gaze lost focus, as if he saw the picture of that year again. That's the back of the 9 kingdoms, the shadow of the world tree. My vague consciousness between life and death went there and saw 5 terrifying beings sitting in it. They're not paying attention to my ants, they're sucking. Power of the gods. Speaking of this, Odin's tone couldn't help but tremble. They are sucking the same divine power on Asgard, including which gods have not yet been born. So, after Hela was born, I understood that the so-called Ragnarok is just a cycle after round. Hela, Thor. Including all the people of Asgard, they are constantly harvesting grain. They are the true masters of the Asa god clan. Golden thunder is about to overflow from Odin's eyes. After 10,000 years, he can finally tell the secret and no longer bear it silently alone. Finally have the opportunity to completely get rid of the end of constant reincarnation. Russell couldn't help but be a little shocked at this time. Regardless of strength, but the truth. Who would have thought that Asgard was nothing more than a field of leeks? What a miserable thing. And this also confirms the undead characteristics of the flame giant, Sult. As the key to ending Asgard, the shadow ancient god will of course resurrect it again and again. But don't be afraid. He could dare to be completely sure that these 5 ancient gods were not multiple levels. Because at the multiverse level, there is no need for any external force at all. It is the source of all power in itself. At this time, Odin looked over with expectant eyes, and Russell smiled. On the side of the couch, how can you allow others to sleep soundly? Isn't it just slaughtering gods, and it's not that you haven't done it. Land of fire. A figure descends. Asa Protoss? Solo spewed bursts of sparks from his mouth, stood up from his throne and laughed. I didn't go to Asgard, and you still came to the door? Can't wait to be destroyed by me? Loki smiled slightly, not caring at all. Be kind, maybe we have the same purpose? Know that there is no eternal hatred in this world, but there is eternal benefit. For example, you obtain the eternal flame to restore your true body, and I obtain the other treasures in Odin's treasury. The flames in Surtle's eyes suddenly became vigorous, and he sneered. A weak chicken who has the audacity to betray him? And as far as I know, you are Odin's second son. He doesn't believe in this inferior scam. Loki's face showed extremely realistic sadness and anger. His body gradually turned blue, exuding an icy aura. This time without explanation, Surtleton laughed excitedly. Frost giant, I promised you. The enemy is too brainless, and even if the scam succeeds, Loki has no sense of accomplishment. The fact that he was a frost giant was known when he became the 10 Rings demon mentor. But at that time, his mind was no longer as good as in the past, and he accepted this fact better. At least the Queen of Heaven treated him as her own, treating him better as a child than to Thor. Odin didn't treat him badly, and the stupid brother Thor could even fight hard for him. So, he was very content. And this time to deceive the flame giant, it is also to seduce the ancient god to appear. After all, they hide in the shadows of the world tree and are very difficult to find. By the time Loki returns to the immortal palace with the skull of the flame giant, all Asgardians have been replaced by illusions. As the eternal flame burns, the true power of Solo returns. In almost a few breaths, he became 10,000 meters tall. Stupid frost giant, go and die with the Asa gods. Although surprised that Odin did not come out to stop himself, he did not have any hesitation. Smiling viciously, he held the sword of flame and pierced the earth with force. As if a switch was touched, a violent explosion occurred in Asgard, which was floating in the universe in an instant. Every inch of land, every building is falling apart in the fire. The divine power that this land has absorbed for tens of thousands of years has also begun to overflow. But just when these divine powers were about to dissipate and return to the universe, countless dense ropes appeared. They link to each void, while the other end is entangled in an unknown object. That's the heart of it all. Is the key to the shadow ancient gods being able to resurrect Asgard again and again. And at this moment, Russell's figure appeared in the void. Under 6 eyes, he had already seen the secret of this thing. Just destroy this, and the cycle of Asgard will be broken. Russell raised his hand to shake it, and suddenly a sword of flame appeared in his hand. He swung forward without hesitation. Slow down. Suddenly, a thunderous sound sounded. The universe was eroded by shadows and became extremely dark, leaving only the remains of Asgard burning. Under the limited light, 5 huge planet-like beings in the sky appeared. They are dressed as classic images from mythological stories recorded by the Vikings. They are Thor, deceitful people; Mars, mother goddess; knowledgeables. At this time, Thor, who was wearing a flying wing helmet, made a shocking sound from his mouth. Master of magic, as long as you don't destroy this core, we are willing to share this power with you, including for the next infinite years. In the eyes of the ancient gods, this is a great temptation. That means that in the years to come, you don't need to do anything, and your strength will continue to grow. Until one day, you can come to that boundary. But just when they were full of confidence, they saw that the sword of flame fall without hesitation, instantly cutting off the true core of Asgard. In an instant, all the threads of destiny and the collected divine power were all reduced to ashes. In the flames, Russell looked back and said coldly, as if looking at his prey, "You guys say there is no possibility. Maybe slaughtering the 5 of you, my gain will be even greater.